who were as good as their camels were, basically. So nobody really thought a great deal about the Arabs, which, to their surprise, in a few years, they would find out that the Arabs were much more than what they thought, and they would quickly take over their lands and establish a new faith and a new civilization, which would be a precursor to the European Renaissance, which we are going to talk about if we get the time. So let's talk a little bit about the geography of the Arabian Peninsula itself. Arabia was a large piece of desert land, and still is. If you've ever had the opportunity to travel to Arabia, you will still find that the large majority of the country, or the peninsula, is consisting of sand dunes, of deserts, and really there is no forest, there is no river. You'll hardly find natural water sources in Arabia. So it's a very arid, dry climate, and it was the same back in the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The scorching, arid weather conditions combined with waterless terrains spread miles across the desert, presenting non-conducive conditions for human life. So, nobody would really want to be living in that place, even now. If the facilities which they have now in the different cities in Arabia were not present, you would not find a lot of people in Arabia and in the Gulf region, because of the difficulty and the weather conditions which make it so hard for one to have a life. Survival was only made possible by occasional rain. So after some time, maybe once or twice a year, there would be a rainfall in Arabia in some parts, and what would happen is that the water would gather, and so people would gather around this this oasis, if you would like to call that, for a few days or months until the water ran out, and then they would migrate from this place to another place where the rain was expected, or rainfall had happened. And water was such a precious commodity for the desert Arabs. It was a luxury to have water. Today we waste a lot of water, and we don't think about places on earth where people, they need this resource, and they are suffering because of not having natural water with them. So we should be thankful to God for living in areas where water is plenty and it's available readily. The two great cities of interest in Arabia for us, when we talk about the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, were Mecca and Yathrib. Mecca and Yathrib. Yathrib is the city which later was named as Madinatun Nabi, the city of the Prophet. When Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, migrated from Mecca to Yathrib, it had a change of name, and it is more popularly known as Medina. So today we call these two cities Mecca and Medina, which were closer to the central west of Arabia, near the great mountain range which lines the western borders of the Arabian Peninsula. Yathrib was an oasis land near the north and was known as the city of the date palm trees. So there were a lot of date palm trees in Yathrib, and there was some agriculture which the people practiced in Yathrib. In Mecca, it was, all mountainous area. There was hardly any agriculture, and the Arabs in Mecca were primarily merchants, people who would travel to the north, towards Syria in those times, to trade. They would take caravans and bring back caravans, and this is how they used to live. And they became pretty rich according to the Arab standards of their time. So these are the two cities, the city of Mecca and the city of Medina, which we are interested in. The rest of Arabia was either barren mountains or sandy desert. The camel obviously was a significant animal for the Arab, not just because of the transportation which it brought for the Arab in this very difficult area where walking or traveling was so hard for for themselves or for other animals. So the camel was precious as a transportation, but also it provided for them meat. So many a times the camel would be their food. If they had nothing else, they would slaughter their camel, and this is how people would survive. So the camel was extremely significant for the Arab, and it was extremely expensive. You can equate the camel, especially a good camel, in that time, and still, to something like a Mercedes-Benz or a Porsche or something which is extremely expensive. So the camels were rare, and they were expensive, and they were a sign of wealth for the Arabs, and also they had many benefits. So let's finally talk about the Arabs themselves. Who were the Arabs? Where did